real landmark moment here in Australia in the ongoing battle to close the gender pay gap.
Delivering on an election promise.
It will put the spotlight on the pay gap between men and women and the gap between a company's words and its actions.
For the first time, employers with more than 100 workers will be forced by law to ditch the secrecy, publishing the difference between what men and women earn.
Previously, employers have been hiding behind industry data. So that meant that women in a particular place of employment couldn't stick their head above the parapet, lock eyes with their colleagues, and ask, what's going on here?
From early next year, more than 4.5 million Aussie workers will be able to access their employers' gender pay gaps.
This will encourage best practice. It will mean a new level of accountability and transparency.
Australia's gender pay gap is closing down to 13.3%, the lowest on record. But women still earn around $250 less than men weekly. That's more than $13,000 a year.
Women are getting poorer and poorer. They are desperate. They are living in their cars or their tents, and it is not okay.
Australia joining a growing number of countries, including the UK, Japan and the EU, forcing companies into wage transparency.
In the UK, this legislation was introduced 8 years ago, and we have seen employers become more accountable.
So will forced accountability finally tip the scales towards equal pay?
Pay transparency is not a silver bullet. It won't alone close the gender pay gap, but it's certainly a good step forward and will help increase the kind of transparency that's key to change.
Gender equality activist Jamila Rizvi joins us now. Jamila, we all know the gender pay gap is stubborn. Do you think this is a game changer?
I really hope it's going to be a game changer. It's something that a lot of us have been waiting a very long time for here in Australia. I think what's not very well known is that this country is actually really, really good at collecting data in this space. We have one of the most complex and impressive data sets in the world, with companies and employers all over the country required to report to the Workplace Gender Equality Agency. But we've always had the data in aggregate. For the very first time, we're going to be able to actually look at an employer and say, what is your gender pay gap? And that's going to be able to help people determine where they want to work.
So what about in female-dominated industries like childcare or teaching and nursing, which are traditionally undervalued? Can this data and the public release of the data help that?
The public release of the data in and of itself doesn't change anything, right? We're simply making sure that a lot of people know about it. But that prompts change. You're going to have pressure from individuals who are looking and choosing about the places they want to work. You're also going to have the people who are already working in those organisations starting to ask some really tough questions. And that's going to require organisations who care about their reputation as gender equal employers to start doing the hard work. And part of that will be in industries that are dominated by men or dominated by women, starting to look at why it is that in a female-dominated industry, like teaching, for example, where there are men there, they tend to get paid more. If you think about it right now, if you're someone watching and you've got kids at school, the chances are, if your kids are in primary school, they've got a female classroom teacher and they've got a male principal.
So, Jan, with all this extra information out there, do we all need to get more comfortable talking with our colleagues about how much we actually earn?
Yes, please. I think if you are sitting there right now at home and you're wondering what you can do about it and how this impacts you, if you're a bloke, go tell your women colleagues what you earn. And yeah, that's going to be a really awkward conversation. It is going to be awkward because you earn more. And I know you're all sitting there wondering, the chances are that you as a bloke earn more. So have the conversation, because you're giving the woman sitting next to you new power.
You go first.
Go on. On the count of three, let's all reveal how much we earn, shall we?
I really wish we'd done this last year.
Oh, right. I see what you're getting at there.
Sarah, next question's yours.
We do it for the love, Jan. We do it for the love. Hey, the driving forces you mentioned before of the gender pay gap, they're quite systemic. Reporting it's not going to be close enough to close it. So what else needs to be done here?
Look, we need to have a consideration of the gender pay gap from a whole lot of perspectives. One, of course, is really inherent discrimination. There are organisations increasingly putting their budgets towards unconscious bias training and having conversations about the fact that we all carry biases and we carry gender biases into the workplace. The fact that childcare is still prohibitively expensive for a lot of families. I think we're seeing some good shifts on paid parental leave, but a lot of organisations need to do better if they want to see women come back to work and not fall further behind when it comes to their salary and ultimately their superannuation and security in retirement.
Jamila, thanks to you and your immaculate bookshelf for joining us tonight.
Anytime.
It's a lovely looking bookshelf.
Very good looking bookshelf.
Yeah.
That seems like a strange comment.
What?
The
About the
bookshelf.
bookshelf?
Well, you didn't like it.
No.
I mean, we can
just
go on and talk about this
because
actual
it's
topic
an
if you want,
ongoing
right?
thing. No, just to
because
sign off on that, because it will seem like, I'm going to let you finish, ladies, but first let's talk about the bookshelf. And that's not what you're doing. It's an ongoing thing about people who colour code their bookcases.
Long story. Anyway, would you like to pick up the topic?
So we're talking with our colleagues about what we earn. I mean, is that really the way forward?
I think so. I think we'd start with you, Sarah. How much is in the bank? How much you got?
Well,
I volunteer here, so I'm doing my bit.
I had a long-standing, and it's unusual because showbiz, it's not a standard situation, obviously, but Hughesy and I, who did a radio show together for 18 years, had never, ever discussed what we got paid. And then the second last job we did together,